this is actually appropriate to do. And John started it, and I think we need to take like 10 minutes or however long it takes. What Julius Randle meant to this franchise, where we were as a franchise in 2019, especially on at the end of June when things didn't go our way and they went the Nets' way, right? And the consolation prize of Julius Randle and how he was treated as a consolation prize during a season that between a 4-18 start and a laughing head coach where he had some personal stuff and tragedy come up. And for him to be the spearhead behind a season that we all fell in love with, this team and this culture that was being built, the we hear of it all, the most improved player of it all, and coming out of the pandemic, and I'll just say personally, the first good thing I've enjoyed was watching Julius Randle play basketball for this team. And I think we should spend a little bit of time just talking about warts and all. Yes, like the fit and everything, and we'll see what happens in Minnesota. But what he was able to accomplish here, I think we should take some time to do so. So, John, if you want to go first, or we can go to DJ, yeah. I'll let you go first.
I will say this. It's going to sound weird. Maybe this is the exit Julius Randle deserved. Maybe going out in a weird way on top, where an entire fan base was at the very least curious what he would look like with this group. And there's a lot of people who are, I don't want to say apoplectic right now, but like pretty beside themselves that they will not get a chance to see Julius have an opportunity to bring this thing home, this thing that he started. For as much as his career here has been up and down, no one, I think, will think of him in a negative light because he is going out at this time and in this fashion. I think people will remember the good, and I think people will appreciate everything that he did in getting them to the point where they clearly, again, he is essentially going to serve as the final outgoing piece in what, to build what they view as a championship roster, which there's a whole lot of irony in there. And like a name that comes to mind, and God knows it's not an apples to apples comp, but like DeMar DeRozan, with the Toronto Raptors. I seriously though.
No, I'm laughing because I was.
You were gonna. Sorry, I stole you. Okay, I stole it from you. I'll
ESP,
turn it over to you,
baby.
Right?
Yeah,
same.
No, and like, but like you talk to. I don't talk to a lot of Raptors fans, but my understanding is that if you did talk to a Raptors fan, they will just speak glowingly about DeMar DeRozan and what he meant for the franchise, and they don't get to the point that they got to without DeMar doing what he did and growing in the way that he grew, just like we saw Randle grow from a guy who was talk about a free agency afterthought, to an all-NBA caliber player who, despite those accomplishments, was not viewed by many people as an all-NBA caliber player, despite the accomplishments. So,
Jeremy.
I really respect Julius Randle. And I found myself appreciating his game more, almost in a counterculture way. He's only human. We all are. I thought he was held to a standard that I never really felt he should have been. This is an excellent player, an all-NBA caliber player who we can also accept was a floor raiser and not going to be the ceiling raiser that was needed. But because this is New York, had to be now. Had to be, what have you done for me lately? And he would do amazing things. And then he would have, the thumbs down gate, or he'd get ejected playing against the Kings, and you can't do that. I would go to games, and the amount of times I'd hear people shouting bum about their own player, it made me appreciate him more, because it's not easy to thrive here. And this is someone who, John, you mentioned top 20 player in franchise history. He absolutely is that. And I've always had lingering concerns, of course, but it doesn't mean you have to show someone the door right away. There's a time and a place. And I don't know if right now is the time. It's probably the place, considering it's New York. I don't know. But there was always something about Julius that felt like an underdog story. Even though this is someone who went to the University of Kentucky, drafted 7th overall, like prize prospect, destroys his leg the very first game he ever plays, learns from his mistakes, maddening on the court from time to time. Defense, questionable, confounding, just a perplexing player. And yet at the same time, there was something about him where you felt like when everyone wanted to avoid this team like the plague, he came through. And yeah, he got a lot of money to do it. No one's disputing that. But the fact that he took so much pride in helping to turn this team around is something I will always appreciate. It's the point that Andrew's making about that We Here season. We all needed it. That was the worst fucking year of so many people's lives. The isolation, the death. We can go into so many personal details. But to rally around that team and how Julius was the engine for it, to see playoff basketball for the first time in I don't know how long. I mean, I do. It's too late for math. Point is, I look at Julius and I'm grateful. I'm appreciative of the work he's done. And I know that wherever he goes next, which for all we know, may not be Minnesota. He might be moved somewhere else. Like Minnesota doesn't necessarily play the exact way that Julius plays. He could be on the move too. And I hope that wherever he lands, he's able to find success. And I'm really excited to figure out what this new chapter is with Karl Anthony Towns and how the Knicks play with him and how they incorporate him into this team. But yes, we don't have to be super lovey-dovey about Julius Randle, but also we can absolutely appreciate all the good that he brought, because the good vibes that we have, so much of that was as a result of him. And so many things we hated were as a result of him. He's not a perfect player. And again, the standard he was held to, in my opinion, was always too high. But I really respect him. I felt for a lot of this time he was professional, even when it got hard. And, trades are never easy. I'll also say for Dante, crazy that he's gone. I truly thought he had as close to a de facto no trade clause as you could get amongst the other Nova guys. As crazy as that might seem. But he's gone. And the roster turnover between today or the last playoff game that the Knicks had and today, insane how things can change. And you truly can never predict it. Like, we get on here, make assessments. What does it matter? The Knicks will do what they do. We're merely on the outside looking in. So I just to go back to Julius and put a bow on it. I'm grateful for the opportunity that we had to see him, because he's a real legitimate talent for a team that has been a franchise and a fan base has been so starved of talent. And now they've moved on. And I think that's the right call in the end. I don't know if it's necessarily for Cat, but it's the right call based on how they're operating and their championship aspirations. It's a business.
Well said.
And I hope he gets paid.
Well said.
DJ.
Yeah, tough business, but it is one. The thing I go back with Julius, I know I've said this a few times on these airwaves, is that the thing that really impressed me so much about him was just how much he evolved as a player and as a person since that first season. If you look at just the skill development, the type of player he is now compared to what he was 4 years ago, I mean, the amount of skill development is truly breathtaking if you consider what he was in New Orleans before the Knicks got him. He is, in terms of his work ethic, his desire to get him to make himself better year after year. It is not common for players at 26, 27 to continue to add to his game, and he was adding last year. And I'm sure he's going to come into this season with more added to his game, which is why I'm one of those, as you mentioned, John, one of those fans that wanted to see it through, because I thought there was more that he can develop, more synergy he can develop. But he's gonna have to do that somewhere else. And I think he's, as a person, and this is the other part that I think you have to talk about. I think he's ready for this move as a person, because he has evolved also in that way, as his mental. He's talked about this so often, how much stronger he is mentally now than he was a couple of years ago. Jeremy mentioned the thumbs down game and some struggles. There has been a lot of things that has happened to him in his career that has tested him, and he has answered the bell each and every time, and he's gotten back up. And I think where he is now compared to where he was, he is a really strong-willed individual who might not have been like the perfect personality to lead a franchise, but for what, and Jeremy mentioned this, for what he was asked to do, I don't know if we could have asked any more of him in terms of handling just the amount of pressure and intense heat that the city can bring. And there were times where he didn't rise to the occasion, but he kept evolving and kept improving on the court, off the court. And he's talked about his family, how much that has imparted so much wisdom and peace and just ability to kind of put life into perspective and this game into perspective. But there's been players that have grown on me over the years. I don't know if a player has grown on me to the level that Julius Randle has grown on me the last year and a half. And I take the defender of Julius moniker. I take it to heart. I wear it proudly. I feel like he has gotten, for the most part, not from you guys, I think from the fan base at large, a bad rap here. And I think that there is not going to be a situation where it's going to be you're going to miss him when you lose him, because I think the Knicks did bring in a talent at the level of Karl Anthony Towns that he's good enough to where you're not going to miss Julius on the whole. There's certain things I think that Karl Towns is just not going to provide that Julius can, and we'll have spent time talking about that. But this is a player that really bought into what this coach was all about, and the players, his teammates, despite some of the what you would think with his personality, really loved him. Julius was a real dude, man. He let you know how he was feeling at all times. I kind of compare him to Chris Webber in terms of like a guy that wasn't smiling a lot. You wonder, like, is he having fun? Is he just miserable out there all the time? But I just think that was, that was just who he was, and he didn't shy away from that. But I'm gonna miss watching him play. I'm gonna miss hearing him talk. I feel like he was a very like thoughtful person, and always had always made you think. It's a tough one, but as Jeremy said when he wrapped his nice takeout, this is a tough business, and it's a trade I think the Knicks probably had to make. But I'm gonna miss watching him play. He was a lot more good than bad, and a lot of all-stars, a lot of all-NBAs, and I'm sure he's gonna land on his feet in Minnesota or wherever else he lands. So gonna miss him.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add before we officially transition, when you develop a love for a team and for a core, they become like part of your family. I know it's cliche, but we're literally in the Villanova family here, as far as I'm concerned. The CAA mafia, whatever you want to call it. I know there's a Kentucky wing of it here with the Knicks, but like you mentioned, John, that the way he goes out is with people feeling the highest, and I understand the concept. This isn't like had a bad playoff series and he got traded with everybody saying, get him off my team, hashtag trade 30. No, this came after a summer of a lot of Knicks fans going to war for this guy and like retweeting the hype videos of him and his rehab and him and what he's becoming in this city, being recognized by his now former coach and former president of basketball operations at the court that was dedicated to him. But that's to what Jeremy said, the tough part of the business. Like that's the last memory we have of Julius Randle, him speaking in New York City about how much he loves the city, and then he gets traded 24 hours later. I'm intrigued by what the Knicks do and what they look like, what Minnesota does, what they look like, where Randle ends up, where his career goes. But I will miss him as part of our family here. I'll miss Kaiden. I'll miss Kendra. I'll miss the Randle family. Like, I'm a sucker for, like, if you're cute with your kids on Instagram, and that was like a thing I enjoyed. It was like Kaiden's reaction to the game. So, thank you, Julius. This turnaround was important to a lot of us, especially at Knicks Film School, and for the role you played in it. We'll always appreciate you for it.
Well said. All right. Well, DJ, thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me.
So in 2 weeks, when they make the next blockbuster trade, you're in?
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my brother. I was like, and so every big rumor that have been around the Knicks, other than Embiid, the Knicks have just traded for that player.
Yep.
It's like everyone that's been like rumored heavily to go to the Knicks, they're going to trade for them eventually. Apparently.
I got to be honest, DJ, like my initial reaction when this trade happened was like, oh, we know nothing. Like for a year, we were like, they'll not that we didn't know that we get something that cat could happen. Right. But it was like, are they going to go do it now? Maybe it's an in-season thing. No, it's going to happen before training camp. They'll never make a trade with Brooklyn. Haven't done it since '83. Oh no, they'll trade 4 picks for and the Bucks pick for Mikal Bridges. They can't trade with Toronto. CAA, like they're suing them. Like I know CAA is the connection, but they'll never get Anunoby. They're going to do it like right before New Year's. Like every single inkling I've had as far as timing is wrong. And it's like, Leon Rose could do whatever he wants. And here we are with this roster that I now have to reassess 2 days before media day.
I'll go one step further.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that over the next year or 2 years that they don't do something equally as outrageous?
Well, I wasn't even going to bring it up on this show because this is too much already. But
no,
Jeremy, we've both.
I'm just saying. Andrew's bringing up a great point, which is that every single time we would say this won't happen. Like we can't keep being no because people. We have to be yes, and here's why. Like I'm at the point now where I can't, in good conscience, and maybe this changes, but at this moment, when I try to do a cap or no cap, I can't be like, no, logic tells me no, because logic went out the window months ago. It just did. So if something crazy comes up, it's hard to say, well, that can't happen, because we have real life examples of the exact opposite of what we would have thought happening. And that makes our jobs more fun, but also a lot harder. So it comes down to math. Math is going to be what tells us what happens.
Yeah. Well, say this. Look at the roster that Leon Rose inherited and look at the thing that they got now. One of those things is not like the other. Okay, DJ, thank you, sir.
Can I go to another one? One last
Sure.
one. Look at then and now. Look at now. 2 days from now is media day, or 3 days from now is media day. We were going to do our annual Claudio Casino bets. I have half of them written, and a bunch of them have Julius Randle in them. Some of them have Dante DiVincenzo written in them. Think about what the roster looked like a year from now. Will Tibbs play quickly enough minutes? Will RJ find a spot that replicates
those guys?
Yeah, replicates his playoff performances. Can Mitch stay healthy through a season? What will Julius look like this year? Will the Knicks make a midseason trade? Oh, they'll make 4 in the next calendar year. Okay, not midseason trades. What a wild 10 months it's been. Maybe 8 months it's been.
8 months, yeah. And quickly was like, where are they going to find minutes? With the minutes crunch, he gets traded. DiVincenzo, the minutes crunch, he gets traded. I mean, listen,
so that's how you solve a minutes crunch.
Yeah.
Again, this is how you know this trade was that earth-shattering and had that many tentacles. We've been talking for 80 minutes, and this is the first time anybody's brought up minutes. Like, they had a very clear minutes crunch. Like, you talk to me all you want about small ball. Like, there was no way to solve it without making a significant shakeup.
So I don't know if you guys have touched on it, but my first read the trade, my first reaction was actually like, man, this sucks for DiVincenzo. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, I don't know if he pushed for this trade. I don't know if he wanted to be traded, but he's the only one, considering Bridges is going to get his deal, that's not been paid yet.
Well,
Do you think he was, and I don't know if he was pushing for it, but do you think he's like upset that he's now potentially going to have a cleaner path to 25, 30 minutes in Minnesota?
I was thinking about it from a different perspective, which that's the better perspective. The one you just hit on. I was like, the Knicks know they're never going to be able to resign this guy without him going to unrestricted free agency. Now, maybe that wouldn't have been a big deal. It's also 3 years down the line, so we have a lot of time left before we have to worry about that. But like, his salary is so low that there was no universe that was going to happen. Your point is a better one. I'm sure. You know what? I bet he doesn't mind as much as we think maybe he minds.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And he's in a winning situation. And the Knicks have done this now time and time again, where they probably had, if they're going to trade Julius, it had to be for Towns in the grand scheme of things. But it's another situation where the Knicks have traded players to either a great situation where you can get playing time or to, a winning team. So
if the Knicks make the finals, the odds are they're either going to face the team that employs Isaiah Hartenstein, the team that employs Dante DiVincenzo, the team that used to employ Jalen Brunson, and who am I missing? Well, Denver. There's not really any connection with Denver.
No, you forgot one. The team that now employs Quentin Grimes. Speaking of guys that were on the team a year ago today.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway,